Hi, my name is Joshua Taffin, and here is my Intro to Media Studies, Chapter 1, Media, Culture, and Communications Overview, and what I got from this chapter. So basically, Chapter 1 goes over the events of 2020 and how media affected the events going on during this time, mainly the COVID-19 pandemic, and how media and social media and other outlets of media affected what was going on. And so it also covers the changes in media communication and the benefit it has on current events. So media from 2020 to 2024 has changed in the span of 4 years, and it's hard to believe that these events happened 4 years ago. And how social media in general kind of boosted from this time, because many people beforehand started turning to the news, started turning to CNN, Fox, newspapers, blogs, Reddit threads, all of this for current event information. But now, and from 2020 until even now, many people have turned to social media for information, because for me personally, in 2020, I wanted to hear from what people were experiencing, from the doctors and nurses on the front lines fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, who were in the ICUs with patients on ventilators. And I wanted to hear what they thought and what their opinion was, because to me that was more important, because they were firsthand experiencing this. To people from the election, the ballot counters, who had to experience all these runoffs, having to recount, and how, from their personal experience, how that affected the outcome of the election. And also the history and timeline of media and communication. So you think, oh, how did media and communication start? Communication started verbally and non-verbally, with folklore, stories, drawings in caves, to writing on slates, on clay tablets, to the Chinese making paper, to the Gutenberg press, which is such an important invention, because the Gutenberg press helped start books, helped start the literacy rate going up, helped start newspapers and all these information. So that invention alone was a big stepping stone into mass communication, because beforehand, if you wanted to read the Bible, since religion was such an important aspect during the Dark Ages and during the time the Gutenberg press was made, you would have to go hear a priest or a monk read it out loud, because you didn't have the paper or the materials to read it yourselves, and it was all handwritten. And so with this invention, people can start reading books, they can start making flyers and posters, from that, and then to Alexander Graham Bell's telegraph and telephone, to silent movies in the silent era, to TVs where there was only 4 channels, and at the end of the night, the national anthem would play, and nothing would be broadcast until 6-7 o'clock in the morning, that next morning, and to having this in our pockets as a portable computer. And so it's interesting how you start from clay tablets to a tablet in your pocket. And lastly, and I forgot to mention this, how culture really affects how we interpret media, and especially in social media, because when you're having to communicate with others outside, let's say, the United States, you're going to have to understand, if you want to communicate with someone in Asia, you're going to have to understand the way they think and the way their cultures are, because there's several different countries in Asia where many people believe in different things, where some people believe in the same things. And so you have to accommodate for everyone, how to spread information. And now you also have to accommodate for people who have accessibility, who have different special needs, who have to have alt text for photos, who are visually impaired. And so you have to accommodate now with media, and now technology has the access and has the power to accommodate for everyone, which is pretty cool. And culture and ethics in general. and why media is important and how it affects us in general. Why is it important? Media spreads, that's how we spread information from coast to coast, to country, even in our backyards in the same community as us. Media like Facebook, like Instagram, we can connect with others long distantly or close by. So that's what I got from this chapter. And so, like I said, the chapter mainly focuses on 2020. And so these were like the two main points, and both of these affected each other. COVID affected how information was being transpired and conveyed on TikTok. Because when you get into nitty gritty, algorithms, AI, all of that affected what we see on TikTok, especially from the COVID pandemic, and how COVID, even though we were at home, we could still connect with others using TikTok and using social media, even though we were long distance. And basically, COVID was a rough time for everyone, but we still got connected with others. So even though we were still at home isolated from others, we got to use social media like TikTok to connect with others. And to me, that's when TikTok skyrocketed. TikTok, was Vine, then Musical.ly, now TikTok. For me, my freshman year, not when TikTok first came out, no one really used it. And then in 2020, that's when we got all of our information from. So major events to me and how media really conveyed this event. So the first main, event that really was important to me was, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Qasem Soleimani, in his assassination, and how really the Iranian government, how the news and broadcasting in Iran and all over the country thought of this. Many people thought it was the start of World War III, how media conveyed that. And to me, that's really when I started looking more information on social media from people that lived in Iran for this, and seeing what they thought of it, and seeing what everyday people thought of it. Instead of hearing the news and hearing information that conveys to a certain audience on that news outlet or whatever, that's really what, to me, started looking at into social media and analyzing how is this information being conveyed to me, who has different beliefs than everyone else, who is in a different culture than everyone else. And then in the middle of 2020, we had the Black Lives Matter movement. And this, to me, is important as well because George Floyd's death was filmed and released on social media. So we got to witness firsthand what was happening, what was going through. And then this sparked an outrage and sparked events where people were spreading their beliefs and how they feel about the events, and spreading ways to combat racism, to combat prejudice in America and technically all over the world, and how people from the Black Lives Matter protests and how people in general viewed of this heinous act in their personal beliefs. And lastly, the last major event of 2020 was the 2020 elections. And it was kind of funny to see how elections were in 2020 because this is when you had Bernie Sanders, Trump, Biden use social media and use media to help capture people my age, young voters, and their opinions, and you doing TikTok trends, trying to get information out. And at the end, who was successful with doing that got the majority of the vote. And so that's the major events that the media that stood out to me besides COVID-19, how media persuade them as. And then this is what I thought of 2020. So I was 15 and 16 in 2020. I was a sophomore, so I couldn't do much. I was at home. And so when I was on TikTok, when I was on Instagram, this is what I saw. because I use media and I use social media since it was a dark and depressing time as an outlet, as an escape, while I was connecting and understanding what was going on, the political impact, environmental impact, societal impact of COVID-19 and everything else, and how I was watching TikToks about that, but also wanting to know what happened to Carol Baskin's husband and how to make whipped coffee. And these two things help connect people and help to communicate people across the globe. We wanted to know what happened to Carol Baskin's husband, and we wanted to go to Starbucks and Dunkin's, but we couldn't, so we watched TikToks and YouTube videos about whipped coffee and connected with those in the comments in threads about, oh, how's y'all's 2020? What are y'all doing to help combat depression? And so to me, this was what my 2020 was. And then the next slide shows what stood out to me the most besides the events going on, that social media persuaded me, and how media in general persuaded me. So how it affected me in general, and its lasting impression on me and what I got from it. So most importantly was Say So. I was on TikTok like everyone else my age in high school, and we used dances to connect with others, like Say So. And I still know that dance. I still memorize that dance, funny enough. And how, even though people didn't have to do the dances, do the music, they still connect. It's like, oh, this is cool. Oh, I associate this song with 2020 because it was popular in 2020. I associate this song, this dance with this year, and how from March to even at the end of the year, people use this dance to spread information, to connect with others. Zoom was another media outlet where we did remote learning a little bit, but it was kind of unheard of at the time. But now it's like this class, we're online. There are people that live in South Georgia that are on the main campus, where I'm on the Blue Ridge campus, and so Zoom, D2L, Google Classroom, Canvas were outlets where we can connect with others without being face to face. And we still use it today. I still use this for work, and I still use it for classes, and how we still connect with others even though we're not face to face. And lastly is Folklore by Taylor Swift. And this stood out to me and affected me because not only am I a Swiftie, of course, was that celebrities, and there's a few songs on Folklore, how celebrities use social media to connect with their fans, use music like Folklore, like Taylor Swift, and used Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, TikTok to spread their music to their fans and help relieve times of stress and anxiety. And so for me, with Folklore, it also got the era where you have celebrities using Instagram to drop their new albums, using Instagram to drop tour dates, to drop information, and even celebrities that aren't musicians use media to spread their voice for political issues, new albums, you name it, new movies, and how media now from 2020 has progressed to 2024. And for me, and here's why we're excited. For me, 2020 was the start off the era of social media, where we got to connect with others without being face to face, where we got to see people work from home, redo their house, renovate their homes on social media, and how so much has happened from 2020 to 2024, where we got new social media platforms like X, where we saw the downfall of Twitter when Elon Musk bought it out, and how we got X, how we got the fear of the United States government banning TikTok, where we got Instagram Reels, and so much has happened in 2020 to 2024 in these span of 4 years, and how media in general has progressed from tablets of stone to the Gutenberg press to social media now, where media in general is easy for everyone to express their information. And how do we use social media for good in connecting with others? And that's what I really got from this chapter. And this chapter really does a good overview of how to be ethical when using social media, how to connect with people in different cultures, and how in the history of social media. So thank you so much for tuning in.